What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my pod where I'm pushing positivity, purpose, and peace to all student athletes to help y'all overcome adversity in sports and in life. This is part 2 of the Hailey Marsh series. If you haven't watched part 1, I would advise you to click on the previous episode. If this content is helpful to you, please like, comment, and subscribe. Let's get into the EP. That's so important for athletes to understand. Worry about doing your best and doing your job. Period.
Yeah.
Unless your coach is like, don't take that shot, don't take that shot, right?
Right.
Unless you've been in the gym practicing and, whatever. What I tell athletes, I'm like, if you're going to take it and it's not what you're supposed to take, you better make it. You know 100%. What I mean? And if you keep making it and you shut me up, then cool. But other than that, it's like, if that's the right read, you got to make it.
Yeah.
You can't say, I don't want to turn the ball over. No, if you were supposed to make that backdoor pass and she was open, you're going to look mad goofy if you didn't make the pass and you're going to get taken out. So, yeah, no, that's important.
Right. And to piggyback off that, it's like you have to have put in the work and the preparation to be ready for that and have already gotten your failure out in practice, right?
Correct.
So it's like, okay, let me get my extra work in, let me put my shots up, let me try these things in practice or by myself in the gym and fail and fail a lot. So then you get to the point where the mistakes don't come as quickly because you've the goal should not be to never make a mistake. The goal should be how long can I go in stretches within the game that I'm not making one.
Absolutely.
Right. And the way to gauge that then would be okay, this game I've only made, my mistakes went from 500 to 2 or whatever,
Absolutely. Film,
yeah.
Huge.
Big.
Growing up, cameras, recordings, I think they were still coming into fruition. We didn't have it as much, but now the world is your oyster.
Yeah.
If you were growing up now as an athlete, watch film, watch games, watch yourself, right? And we don't want to be obsessed with it because there's that healthy balance of just okay, now you're not giving yourself enough brain space to breathe and just read and react, right? You don't want to be a robot, but film tells you a lot. You can learn a lot by watching film. That's something I wish I did earlier in my career because I would have grown even more, just at a faster rate. But you're right, it starts in practice. It starts training and training by yourself. There was a trainer, he was making a video, it was a reel, I can't remember his name, but he was talking about how kids, they just train with a trainer. They don't have any creative times by themselves. And some of the best athletes, they have that creative time by themselves.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, Hailey, you can speak to this. The times where I felt so bad, or I felt frustrated, or I felt mentally blocked, when I had my creative time by myself, I was allowed to remember why I started playing. I was able to get my confidence again. I was able to be I can do this. That the importance in having that private time with your craft as well, it all fits in the puzzle.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
100%. And I think that's really important to highlight because even as you're saying that, I didn't have creative times of let me just try and figure something out or I didn't have enough time. In my mind, I was a race against the clock. I started in 8th grade and I was I have to be this good in 4 years. I gotta get my stuff done. Right. And so I didn't have enough time to people would say just go try and figure it out. See how the ball spins and figure it out. Right. And I was I don't have time for that. But the time that I got in the gym where it was just me and the ball and the hoop and I was okay, these are the things that I know I can do because I've done them and someone's taught me how to do them and I'm just going to perfect them. Then you're there and you start getting confidence because nobody's there telling you what to do.
Absolutely.
You're okay, yeah, my stroke looks nice now because I'm doing it and I don't need my trainer to tell me good job. Or I don't need my trainer to tell me to move my elbow in. Right. No, I know how to do this and I can fix it.
Yes.
And so not having to rely on someone Exactly, like what you're saying.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Relying.
So and it grows your confidence.
Yep. In your decision making.
Yeah.
In your decision making, in your skill. I know finishing, like when I was practicing finishing around the basket, like what your coach recommended, just feeling how the ball comes off. Like I was able to excel my game, but that started in private. I did work with the trainer on those things, but I have to gain confidence in myself in the dark first. And I think athletes make the mistake of trying to do it in the light on top of making a mistake.
Right.
And that's when you get ridiculed. That's when it's like, what are you doing? Right. Because it does come off selfish. Maybe that's not your intent. But it's like, why are you doing that move? Like, I haven't seen that, and you look crazy. I can tell you haven't practiced it. You saw that on a highlight and you thought it was sweet to just tween pull up at Steph Curry range.
Right.
But you can barely make free throws. So doing things in the dark in your private time, like the Bible says, whatever it gets done in the dark is gonna come to light. That's bad and good things.
Yeah.
We just got to stay encouraged. Like, it matters.
Right. Absolutely.
I think sometimes we can get discouraged. Like, this won't matter.
Yeah. Someone's
not seeing it.
Yes.
Someone's not with me.
Yes.
It always matters.
Yes.
And what did you say last time we were talking? How you do some things is how you do everything. My coach would say that too. It's so true. Yeah. And it will come out. You will reap whatever you sow. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's all good stuff. I wanted to also ask you about your relationship with basketball. For me, I had a toxic relationship with basketball. And we're not even talking about coaches playing time. I'm talking about reflecting and analyzing myself, my heart posture. I'm not even talking about external things. And there's a lot of external things that goes on in sports that affects your experience. I'm talking about internally. I had a toxic relationship with basketball. So I'm curious, what was your relationship with basketball?
Yeah, this is so good. Such a great question. For so many reasons. Like, I think that we can just, like, in the moment when you're an athlete and you're like, I have this goal and nothing is going to stop me from getting there, you don't even reflect to think about, like, what is this? Not even just your why, but like, how am I operating in basketball? Is this healthy for me? Is this good for me? Is, like, okay, do I actually need to be in the gym how much I am? Or is this, like, becoming something that's not good for me, right? Like, and not to say that as an excuse to not put the work in, because you need to do that, but it's ultimately like, what else in your life is happening besides the sport that you're trying to get better at? Because God has designed you for so much more than just sport, right? And so for me, I would say basketball was my savior in so many ways, positive and negative, right? So, like, number one, I didn't love being home with my family. We, blending a family, step siblings, step parents, my sister. My home wasn't always someplace I enjoyed being, for, like, no one's fault. Like, I have amazing parents, I have amazing siblings, they're great. It was like a natural high school instinct to be like, I don't want to be home, so I'm going to do everything I can to not be home. And so I would be at basketball all the time because that's just where I wanted to be, right? And so that was great. And it was bad in the sense of, like, I had nothing else going on for me besides basketball. Like, when I think back to high school, it was just basketball. Like, I missed out on the things that high schoolers do that's, like, enjoyable, right? Like, I didn't just go hang out with my friends and, like, have normal experiences. Right. Like, someone asked, a mental health counselor I was talking to asked each of his athletes, like, what's something fun that you do, like, outside of sport? Yeah. And nobody can give an answer if they have the goal of wanting to play in the next level. Yeah. And that was just a really hard transition for me post basketball, because basketball ends, right?
Yes.
And like I didn't know anything that I like to do besides hoop, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with my time? Anyway, so I wish that I had some other kind of interests, because it was just like the only thing I did ever.
Yes. I want to piggyback off what you're saying and provide clarification.
Yes, please do.
Which I think you would agree with.
Yes.
Because, I love that you said that, because it's one of the reasons why I started this podcast.
Yeah.
Because I don't think there's just one way.
Yeah.
To be great.
Yeah.
I think there's ways that have been modeled for us. A lot of athletes, they say, well, Kobe didn't have friends. Kobe was always in the gym, or this person says they're always in the gym, and da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Being in the gym is important.
Yeah.
Practicing your craft every day, if you want to go high, is important.
You have to do that.
It doesn't matter if you're in sports. It doesn't matter if you're in business. It doesn't matter if you're trying to start a talk show. You got to put in reps to be great, to have confidence. That is true. However, this idea of like, you have to do that and have no other life.
Yes.
I don't think that's true.
Yes.
There are seasons where you're not going to be able to do everything, right? Like 20% here, 20% here with my kids, 20% here with my family. Like, I'm not even saying that, like, that your whole life areas should be evenly interacted with. Every season. No, not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, when we do have that focus, right, for us, basketball, there's always time.
Yes.
To just like let your hair down. Right. When you put up your shots, when you did the conditioning, when you did your homework, when you did this, when you did that.
Yep.
What are you doing in your free time? Okay, rest, take a nap. Yes, recovery. That's a part of it. But like, okay, maybe you carve out time on Saturday at 2 to 4 and you just hang with your friends.
Yes.
Or you just like draw, or you just do something else, because I talked about it in one of my other pods. What was it called? I think it was Get Out of Your Head and in the Game. And good. I was talking about your prefrontal cortex and how your brain, it will actually shut down if you have too much of the same information and you keep doing the same thing over and over and over. Like, you need to have a break.
Yes.
That's why those times, like, you'll come hoop and you act like you can never, like you've never played basketball before. But you probably overly focused on making a mistake or trying to do the perfect thing. And so your brain's just like, I don't know what to do. Right?
Yes.
So I love how you said that, because just because someone says, like, another example, because I think this is important. I remember a youth, like a young gentleman, he was saying that he saw this football player. And I think we talked about this before. Okay. He saw this football player and he said, you know, it was always the NFL. I didn't have a plan B. It was just plan A. Like, I didn't need a plan B. It was just plan A. That was my only focus. If you got a plan B, you're not really tapped in with plan A. La, la, la. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, and he has success. He's in the NFL. Just because we see a way modeled doesn't mean we should copy it. Right. We have to ask ourselves, first off, am I like that dude?
Right.
Can I afford to just have a plan A?
Right.
That's the first question. Question number 2, is that my story? I guess that's really what it is. Is that my story? Is that what's healthy for me? Right. Maybe he can go and not have any social time and seem okay. Right. Because I don't give a freak what anybody says. I don't care what social media says. If you don't have enough social time, studies show that actually causes anxiety. Absolutely. If you don't have enough human interaction. If you don't have enough time to just be free, to be creative, to have fun. Yeah. So any athlete watching this, I want you to question those things. Like, yes, am I putting in the work? Yeah. Am I doing everything I need to do to get better? Then, after that, am I prioritizing my mental health, myself,
yeah.
my fun time, my joy time, my time with the Lord, if that's
Right.
who you serve, right? Like,
Yeah.
that is important.
Right.
And we can't continue to idolize things and wonder why we end up psycho.
Yes. Thank you.
Essentially.
Yes, that is exactly what I'm talking about. It's like, take 2 minutes, take 5 minutes, and like remind yourself that you're more than just an athlete, right? Is like what my heart was in saying that. So thank you for saying that much better than I did.
Yeah, no, you said it great. It was just, I wanted to add on
Yeah.
and say, like, because I think someone could hear that and be
Yeah.
like, oh, right, I don't need to like work hard, or I don't need to do
No.
And it's like, no, you do.
You do.
If that, it has to match your goal.
Right. Yeah.
It has to match your goal. It has to match your athletic ability. Like, what do you need to do to get where you need to go after that?
Exactly. Yeah. And to revisit, like, why I say that is why I said that basketball was my savior, because it was a place of like, okay, comfort for me, because like, this is where I could go. I knew that I was going to be able to do what I needed to do. Like, at the end of the day, I could go there and like, it's just me, the ball, like nothing else in my life mattered if I was there and was like able to be present. However, when you get into the grind of that and you forget, like, you don't have that time to step back and you don't have that time to reflect on who you are outside of athletics, it becomes like you're God, right? You're like, I'm living and dying by my performance. If I have a good game, I'm feeling good. If I have a bad game, I'm feeling bad. I'm living and dying by my schedule. Okay, I'm here all the time, and this is all that I'm doing. And if I don't have basketball or whatever sport it is, then I'm not worth anything. Like, this is the only thing that I can bring to the table. And so in that time of really college at this point, it was like, this is my whole identity had become my sport. And so something that was great of like, oh, this is awesome. Like, I'm getting to escape. Like, I'm getting to get better at my characters being built. Like, this is something I enjoy, turned into something that just became who I was. And that's not sustainable, right? And so like, instead of putting my hope in the Lord and like who I am in Jesus, I put it in who I am in my performance, right? And that just left me completely empty, right? And so when you get injured, right? Like, I got injured, and I swear it's from God, because I could literally only practice 3 days a week. I think I told you this. Had this weird injury. My doctor was like, you can practice 3 days a week and you can play in the game up to 10 minutes. Okay, when you're practicing 3 days a week, like, you suck. Like, I sucked. I was not good anymore, because I just couldn't practice. Like, I lost the repetition anyways. And so when I'm not able to perform the way that I want, my whole identity was like, destroyed.
Absolutely.
Right. And so something that was like beneficial and great turned into something that was not super healthy for me, because it's who I looked up to, right? It was what I looked up to. I want to be a basketball player. And the Lord really just had to take that away and replace it with Him and say, no, this is who you are. You're a child of God, and I've created you to play basketball, but I don't need you to perform the way that you think that you need to perform. And He had a different assignment for me at the time for my last 2 years at college, which was to basically start a basketball Bible study, and some of my teammates came to Christ through that, right? Through me and my other teammates leading that.
Wow.
And so it's like this weird journey of like this false God that I made it out to be, to Him finding me through it and saying, no, actually, I'm the one you need to be following, and I have a plan and a purpose for you that's outside of this.
That's so good. And perfect segue, because let's talk more about that, how God saved you, because you needed to be saved.
Yes.
However, there's a reason why you needed to be saved. Like, what did you want basketball to do for your identity?
Yeah.
Like, what benefits were you seeking from basketball for whatever that you learned you needed to find in God?
Yeah. Ultimately, like, confidence Like I felt really good about myself as like a basketball player when I produced, but if I wasn't producing, doing whatever I needed to do on the court, whatever my role was, I felt, not pretty. I didn't feel like my personality was something that people actually liked me for. It felt like something that I was using to like win people over to like me. Like, oh, these are my teammates. Like, I'm only gonna have friends if they're my teammates. Like, I don't have anything to offer looks or personality wise if I don't have basketball. Like, I didn't know who I was.
So real.
As well as like purpose. Like, if I'm not hooping and I'm not trying to reach my goal, what am I doing with my life?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So relatable.
Yeah.
Like, thank you for being vulnerable and saying that, because that's hard to say. I know in my journey of healing, that was hard for me to say. Like, whoa, I actually was so insecure.
Yes.
Masked it like a mug with basketball. Yeah. If you were to ask a lot of people that interacted in basketball, I'm sure they would have a totally different perspective of who I was and who I showed up to be. Confident, strong, sure. In private, I was a wreck. Every mistake was like a death.
Yeah.
It was like my worth
gone.
Nada.
Yeah.
I too did that, and it's relatable.
Yeah.
And we have to be on guard. Like, it's okay to be mad and have this type of zealousness about getting better.
Yeah.
And like, okay, I made that mistake, I don't want to do that again. That's all healthy. But when we get into this, like, whoa, I made a mistake, I'm dumb, I made a mistake, I'm stupid, I made a mistake, I should quit, I made a mistake, I am a failure. Like, first off, whether you believe or not, that's the devil.
Right.
That's your adversary, the devil. Like, that's not from God. It's probably not even from you. I mean, we can agree with those thoughts and they become us, but those negative thoughts, like, why would we choose to say that about ourselves?
Right.
In a time of insecurity. Like, that's the devil.
Right.
So working through that, like, what did you combat? Those thoughts, the feel of failure, I want basketball to make me feel, loved, and this is the only way I have friends. Like, how did you get out of that?
Yeah. I would say for 2 years, I threw myself a pity party and didn't want to do the work to change that. And so for 2 years, my freshman and sophomore year, my game suffered because mentally I was depressed, I was anxious, you go to a new school, right? Everybody's good there. I wasn't getting the same like respect and performance because like I was a freshman and then I got injured and all these things, and so my identity was just like my worth was gone. Right? Like, and so I lived in that for 2 years, like, and really struggled. Didn't, like, for the first time in my life, I was like, I can understand why people take their life. Like, it was
seriously,
I was like,
seriously,
I get it. Like, what am I here for if I can't do what I thought I was supposed to do at PILU, which is be a great basketball player? What am I doing? And so I would say number one, like, don't stay in it as long as I did. Like, I needed to get help, and I didn't get help for a long time. And so number one, like, I got a counselor, and that was like life-changing for me. It was really hard to do that and to like admit to people that I needed help, because you're an athlete and you're tough. And I was like, I'm tough. I'm tough. I can get through this. I don't need anybody, it's me, I can do it. And I couldn't. And I tried for 2 years to do it by myself, and it didn't work. And so I got a counselor, and ultimately I met a mentor through FCA, and like, it's not an FCA plug, it's just my story of like, I got involved with it, and I met someone for the first time who was like, Hailey, follow me as I follow Jesus, and like, that's gonna be the only cure for what you're feeling. And so through meeting with them, it was ultimately just like, your performance is not who you are. Like, getting in this, like, believing this, like, who I am is who I am and made in God, right? Like, I'm the image of the Creator. Like, He loves me regardless if I do on the court what I need to do or not. As well as finding, so like, number one, like, I truly believe the cure for anxiety, depression, all those things is, it can only be Jesus, right? But the other, like, more practical tip for that, for getting out of that, is finding the new, like, being willing to alter and change and redirect, right? So like, I was like, oh, I want to be a starter, I want to play all the time. That was not happening. So I needed to figure out a new level of success for me, and like, what that looked like.
So good.
And then really got to walk in confidence, because again, I had a purpose, right? It was no longer killing the game, right? And, I still got in there, got my 4 points, my, 3 rebounds,
matters.
Playing my role. I knew my role. And at that point, I became a champion of my teammates. I really invested in them and their relationships. And for the first time in my life, started to try and make friends outside of basketball.
Wow.
And then when I saw that, I think of my best friend, Kennedy Roblard, when I saw that this girl on the softball team, like, wanted to hang out with me, I was like, maybe it's not just basketball. Like, maybe I do have something to offer.
Wow.
And so getting out of my comfort zone.
Absolutely. And you said something very important, is shifting.
Yeah.
Shifting your mindset. There's always room to grow. There's always room to try to get a different role. But when you're in season, it's kind of hard to get out of your role. Like, after summer, preseason games start, real games start, like, you're kind of getting into how the coach wants to coach, who they want out there, the rotation, and you can be in hell the whole time waiting for your season to go the way you imagined it. And what you just described is saying, okay, this is not what I imagined. I'll mourn that, but now what do I need to do so I can not only have peace and joy, but I can be there for my teammates, I can continue to grow, and really humbling yourself and say, how can I be my best in this tough situation? Because it's tough. Let's be real. We work our whole lives to be at a certain level. We want it to go a certain way. The reality is, it doesn't always go your way. Most time, it doesn't go your way. And the people who are great, the people who have success, figure it out. They do their best in what they've received. And then also having that realization of, like, this is what I received. I didn't receive what Hailey got. I didn't receive what Angel Reese got. I didn't receive what Sabrina, like, I didn't receive what Steph Curry got. Like, with what I received, with the chips, with the cards I've been dealt. Wow. I made the best out of it. I'm going to feel proud of myself. And that's me preaching to myself, because that was hard for me to do for a long time. Stuck in comparison. And sometimes just comparison of what I had planned. Like, I failed. College career failure. And God had to show me, like, yo, that's so far from the truth. Like, you had success on success even outside of basketball, and sure, it's not what you wanted, sure, it's not all that you thought it was going to be, right? We all have our ups and downs, and this isn't unique to me. I'm sure a lot of athletes can complain about similar things, and coaches even, but being like, okay, it's not what I thought, but man, hey, made lemons out of lemonade type. Like, I ate regardless with what I got, you know?
Right.
So I love that you said that. It's very helpful, and it's a good reminder.
Yeah.
You gotta shift, and you gotta do your assignment.
Yeah.
Oh, girl. Scripture just popped in my head. I'm trying to think of the verse, but it was talking about, what was it, Jesus? It was like, I don't know if it was Jesus talking, but the person was like, if I would have gave you, this is Old Testament. I'm trying to remember, like, as I'm talking, I'm trying to remember. I don't think it was Jesus. It's Old Testament. The verse was, if I have given you something small to do, no, if I would have given you something big to do, wouldn't you have done it? How come when I give you something small, you have a problem and you get mad? Girl, the story is right here. I wish I could give you guys more details. Look it up, fact check me. But that's what it reminded me of. Yeah. And I remember that scripture convicting me. Because it's like, if I would have gave you something big to do, wouldn't you have done it? You would have been so pumped to be the leading scorer. You would have been so pumped to be on the... How come when you don't even got to do all that. I just want you to, like, go in and be a good, like, cheerleader for your teammates.
Yeah.
I just want you to work hard, give me that 15 minutes, but we get so mad about the humble beginnings, the small roles, and we forget that contributes to the whole success of the team.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
For sure. And like, for you to say that as well, is like, my goal entirely shifted after junior year, and it literally became, I just need to finish. And like, there were so many times where I was like, God, I'm not doing what I want to do, which is go and perform the way that I feel like I could or know I should. Right. And he was like, I need you to be here. And I was like, for what?
For what?
Like, what am I doing?
Literally.
And then having those wins of like, my basketball Bible study are my lifelong friends to this day. Knowing that I can... like, my identity was completely stripped down to nothing and then rebuilt in Jesus himself, right? And like, all of these other things that God taught me through that made it worth it. Like, I would not... Those 4 years were the hardest years of my life, and I would never change anything about them because God worked so well through them and changed me.
Wow.
And I think it's also given you a new perspective of like how you can give back to other student athletes, right? Like, if I was on this podcast my sophomore year of college, I'd be like, you have to grind and you have to get better and you have to do all these things. And now it's like, all those things are great. Like, they're amazing, they're wonderful. And I believe being the best that you can be is like what you need to do. Right. And if that takes you to the NBA because you've got business to handle in the NBA, then great.
Right.
But God can use you wherever you are, and like, basketball or sport is just a vehicle for him to take you to the people you need to meet and for the assignments that he has for you. And it's a fun game.
You know, it is.
Yeah, it's just fun.
It's fun.
And now I get to play for fun on my adult basketball league, and it's awesome.
Yeah. Right. How are you guys doing?
Oh, we kill it.
Hey.
Yeah. Not for me, but we've got some really great athletes on there. So.
Wow, that's dope.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So, great story. God has taught you a lot.
Yeah.
Obviously, just about yourself, about what's important, and about how you can serve and give back. I wanted to talk to you about what gave you the courage to start FCA as your you didn't start FCA. It's been around for many years. Yeah. But to take over this director role for the South Puget Sound area.
Yeah, for sure. I think about how hard my basketball journey was and how it didn't need to be that difficult because of the pressure that I put on myself and ultimately like the worth that I put in the sport, right? Like, I think that there's such a fine line between excelling and being your best, and also giving it with open hands, right? And just being like, okay, God, if this is what you have for me, then like nothing can stop it.
Right.
And if it's not what you have for me, then I don't want it, right? And so I believe that that sport is the best thing that you can do as a young person. Teaches you so much, the camaraderie, the communication, the teamwork, like
that part.
Ultimately, the best character developer that has ever been created.
Man.
Right? You either become a great person through sport or a very terrible one, right? And so I just think that we need more people surrounding athletes and teaching them how to do it the right way, which I believe is involving Christ into that. But ultimately, just if Christ isn't your thing yet, we'll be praying for you.
Yeah.
But if it's not, then just having like a positive role model of, hey, this is what happened to me, don't do it like I did.
Right.
You know, and like
Absolutely.
having those people in kids and athlete or coaches and athletes' lives of saying, I've done this before, let me help you as you do it, so you don't have to make the mistakes that I did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And kudos to you for doing that, because another reason why I wanted to do this pod is there's so many athletes with so much wisdom.
Yes.
And not giving it back.
Yes.
And so I love how you are continuing to be a part of systems that are empowering athletes, giving back, putting them on game, reminding them that this is not all they are, reminding them that there's more to life than basketball and all the things. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I did FCA in college as well, and I also did in Varsity, and game changer. Community is important.
Right. Because, and here's how I always think about it. Like, you are going to battle on the court, in the pool, in the field, together with your team, right? Why are we not going to battle together spiritually? Like, we were all fighting demons, right?
Girl, say that one more time for the people in the back. Say that one more time. So we do what?
We're all fighting this battle, and if we had a space to really truly open up and invite people into that in a healthy way, where there's someone there who can steward and help with the big things. Because like with me, someone needed to be like, Hailey, you need to go see a counselor, right?
Man.
Other people, it's like, okay, like, let's talk through this. You're having beef with your teammate, like, let's figure it out, right? Because just the communication and openness of the internal struggle, like, you don't have to go through it alone. And as an athlete, it's so easy to be like, I'm good.
Yep.
I don't need it.
Yep. So true. And that's how you get further in the hole.
Yes.
And I think it's harder when you have success, because people don't see that you're in the hole.
Yeah.
And they may not have the time or willingness to care that you're in the hole, because you're producing.
Because you're still producing, right?
So, Great point. What is some advice that you would want to give to student athletes coming up today?
Yes, great question. I would say number one is commit to getting better at your craft, and whatever you think that looks like, multiply it by 10. And that's the amount of effort that you should be putting in to really get better at what you need to get better at. And so for me, that looked like getting in the gym literally every single day, like every day, 2 hours a day, doing what I needed to do to get better. And the results will speak for themselves. But you can't rely on natural talent. You can't rely on, you've been good at it or you are good. Once you stop working and putting in practice, like you're either getting better or you're getting worse, right? And so there's no staying the same,
right? And
so really committing to putting in that work, but at the same time, just like God says, like allowing us to have a Sabbath. The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. We have to take a time to separate ourselves from this goal, right? Because it can just consume us so much. And so we need to take some time, block out 2 hours, an afternoon, an evening, right, of time for you outside of basketball, whatever that looks like. Maybe it's getting a Bible study. Maybe you commit to going to Wednesday youth group. I don't know. Maybe you are a drawer, so you want to draw. Maybe you want to do music, or just hang out with your friends, or you love your parents, spend time with your parents or your siblings. But you have to be able to separate the athlete, Nia the athlete, from Nia the person, right? And so spending time with yourself in the things that you like to do outside of your sport is just as important as getting good at it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is great advice, and I hope this message of the Sabbath continues to get pushed.
Yeah.
Especially in our culture today, where everything's go, go, go.
Right.
And we don't have time to rest. And for us, we are going to rest in the Lord. And it can also be, like you said, rest in friends, or rest in just not thinking, or rest in just music or whatever. So I love that you said that. It's a great reminder for me as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just to have time to rest.
Yeah.
And if you don't have 2 hours, take the time you have.
Yeah.
Whether it's 5 minutes, 30 minutes with God, with your crap, whatever.
Right.
Rest.
Right.
You have to rest. It's the only way you can have renewed strength. So I love that. Well, I think we're good. What do you think?
Yes.
I think we covered a lot.
Yes.
The Holy Spirit was moving.
Yes.
I think this is a great episode, and I know that a lot of athletes are gonna get something out of this. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this was dope. Until next time, y'all.
Wrap it up.